if your roof kind of needs to be replaced, your windows kind of need to be replaced, what is the most important? And I always say the windows, because if the storm enters the home, that's where the roof structure or the roof itself is usually taken off. So for example, GAF, which is a shingle manufacturer, they also manufacture some other products as well, and I'm sure you're familiar with them. They have what's called a wind-proven warranty that they've rolled out relatively recently. And what that does is, a lot of other shingle manufacturers, as I mentioned when we were just chatting, is that if a storm touches your county, doesn't have to touch your neighbor's house, doesn't have to hit your house. If the storm touches your county, whether your roof was 1 day old or 30 years old, your warranty's gone. So, I could sell you a new roof and it's out of warranty, in the second week because we got hit by a hurricane.
And a lot of them, I think, say a named storm, which means 35 miles an hour.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing that we try to do, educate during our appointments. Do you know this about the industry? These are questions you should ask because, shingle roof A, they might just say shingle roof, but one's 33 and one's 30. Maybe there's a reason, there's a difference there. Or maybe the other company is just giving away free roofs. I don't know. But, really understanding the difference and looking into the warranty, because, when you go to BrandsMart or wherever to buy an appliance package, you pretty much know, like, hey, after this period, there's no coverage, and having a good understanding helps a homeowner make an educated decision at the end of the day. But so as part of their wind-proven warranty, we have to install a certain amount of their products to qualify for that warranty. Guess what one of those products are?
Spray foam insulation?
No. Sorry. I didn't mean to set you up there. So ventilation, which includes a ridge vent. But if we install a ridge vent, we have to make sure that they have an intake, which means soffit venting. So, it's interesting that you made that comment. And I always wondered that myself. It's like, okay, if the windows are sealing the envelope, the windows and doors are sealing the envelope, why do we have soffit ventilation other than obviously, trying to cool and let the attic breathe?
Well, a lot of guys came down here from up north and they always had vented the attic because they're afraid of the damage that would be caused by ice damming. Somehow that idea stuck, even though I don't find an awful lot of ice damming damage down here. But I think what you're saying is that the shingles affected by the wind blowing over the GAF product is going to terminate the warranty. But my thought is that the wind coming into the attic forces the roof framing to move around. Even if you tear, the underlayment is nailed or secured to the plywood, and even if that stuff only moves around and tears an inch in that underlayment on a tile roof, you have a leak there. And
right.
The Florida Building Commission has used it's a cartoon where they show the roof, and the caption is the roof and the building blows up like a balloon when positive pressurization when there's enough positive pressurization. So my experience or theory is that the damage is caused because of the positive pressurization from the underside of the roof in combination with the uplift from the wind going over the roof. That's causing enough movement to damage the underlayment on these vented attics, where I don't find that on homes that were through the same storm with sealed attics.
So I saw a pretty cool demonstration on somewhere online, and they were trying to explain that upwards pull or the uplift as the storm winds come up and over. It's the same. You're an engineer, so you have know this better than me, but the same mechanism that makes a plane fly, which is, when those winds hit someone's home, you have two forces. You have the forces of the wind coming over, lifting up, and then if the storm enters the home, which you're also describing, through the soffit, you have more or additional uplift. I don't know if I'm using that term correctly, but what he showed was that was pretty cool is if you blow over the paper, it'll actually lift up. I don't know if you'd seen that before, but I thought it was pretty cool. And I was intentionally blowing over so that the hurricane winds will actually pull up. Anyway, I'm sorry. Maybe it'll make sense to somebody watching.
Well, hopefully, I mean, There are some drawbacks about sealing the attic and using the spray foam. There's a requirement now to vent the roof when you have the spray foam, but I haven't seen anybody actually doing it yet, so it hasn't really caught on. It's a venting portal that they're supposed to install now. It's been in the code for 6 years.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that either. There is an implication. We always use direct to deck peel and stick, as an underlayment. We typically stay away from the double 30. The only time that we do install double 30 is if we have somebody that has a spray foam on the underside of the deck, because it'll rot out the deck quicker. So that's the only exception. Other than that, we're always using direct to deck as a secondary water barrier. I did a podcast with an insurance broker, just kind of going over misconceptions and misrepresentations of contractors, and it was an interesting podcast. And we talked about hurricane strap savings directly related to insurance, and also secondary water barriers. And secondary water barrier because of my safe Florida home. And she was saying that the average savings for a secondary water barrier is like $14 a month. And there's some contractors out there that are saying, you'll save 25% or something like that. Whereas obviously the straps, or the retrofitting of the straps, that makes a pretty big difference.
It's based on a sliding scale. So if you had no straps in the attic and no secondary water barrier and no opening protection, and then you put that secondary water barrier in, and that was your only wind mitigation feature, that would get you a bigger credit than if that was the last thing that was done.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think she had mentioned something like that, but
It's supposed to be fair, but people will often take advantage of information like that. If you already have shutters and you have a secondary water barrier and you have a hip roof, by putting extra straps in, you don't get as much as you would if you didn't have those features and then you put the straps.
And yeah, she talked about that as well, which was that, it depends where you go up from. So like the jump from toenails to straps is going to be a big savings. However, when you're going from single straps to double straps, it doesn't really do much there. I mean, in regards to saving on insurance alone,
that might save your building though.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's interesting. So I've been to easily over 10 people's homes. Typically, the older population, their intention is to pass the house down to their kids. They're putting a new roof on the house. The house is paid off. They don't have any windstorm insurance. And the first thing that we do is we go in the attic, we take a flashlight and we look, how is the roof to wall connected? We discover that they have clips, or that they don't have clips, which that obviously tells you that it's probably toenails. I try to have the conversation and they're like, not my problem. I'm like, well, I understand if you want your kids to inherit the problem, that's fine. However, you don't have insurance. You're on a fixed income. In the case that a storm comes, you're putting, call it $18,000 to $60,000 into this roof. In the event that a storm comes and you do not install hurricane straps, that whole investment is gone, and you don't have insurance. Like why not try to protect the investment? And what I always say is, if you're not addressing the roof to wall connection, how the roof attaches to the wall, or the roof structure attaches to the wall, your brand new metal roof that's rated over 200 miles an hour, your brand new shingle tile flat roof, can end up in your neighbor's house because your whole roof structure is gone. Because the most important thing is, how is the structure itself connected? So I do enjoy having those conversations as well.
There's a term I learned in one of the building science classes I took, and the professor described a concept of neighbor envy. And if you go and spend $20,000 on a new kitchen with new appliances, the neighbors come over and go, oh wow. But if you spend $20,000 on upgrading the wind resistant components of your house, that might carry over to where you get resistance on fortifying the building.
Absolutely. It's something that you'll never see, but it's peace of mind that, during a storm, do you want to be thinking about those things? And, should I have spent the extra money to protect myself, my family, my investment, etc. But how do you sell that is not always, the easiest thing. So for homeowners who have never considered what happens when a job goes bad and a expert such as yourself needs to be brought in, what do you actually do as an expert witness, as a building inspector, when it comes to defective work or issues with a project?
Well, it's often that an attorney is the one who contacts me and they hear the problems the homeowner has had. They put together a complaint, and then I review the complaint, and then it's my job to go out and verify that these problems exist and document them by measuring and taking a lot of pictures. It's important that the equipment you use is documented as well. And then it's not uncommon to find additional problems and then and document those as well.
Well, let's talk about roofing specifically. What are the most common issues that you typically get called in for? And what are the most common things that you typically see when dealing with a complaint related to roof being defective?
Oh.
And specific to a contractor, not insurance.
Well, with regard to the contractor and the homeowner having some type of dispute or thing go wrong, it's almost inevitably that the homeowner had a concern, whether it was very important or very valid or possibly not, and wants to find out what the contractor is able to do about it. And the number one way to be contacted by the homeowner's attorney is by not calling them back and not answering or dealing with their complaints or questions. And then it starts from there. It's almost like a witch hunt. The homeowner gets very excited and emotional about these things, and some of them are really valid problems, and some of them, I wouldn't care about at my house. But they believe they're all important, and the best thing you can do as a contractor is address all those items as they appear to the homeowner and treat them with importance. And that will go a long way to keep, they call, you want to see the thin letter in the mail, it's got a check. You don't want to get a fat letter because it's from the attorney.
That's the first. I like that.
Yeah, I haven't heard that term in a while, but I remember a lot of talk about the fat letter.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that in my back pocket. I like that. But in regards to
the actual defects, that's the easy part of my job. Roofers and contractors like to do things the way we always do it. We always do it that way. And they get in these habits and they get away with things, and they find, I think, out of my experience, they may find the building department doesn't give them a hard time about something. But when somebody like me shows up, the first thing I want to do is see the notice of acceptance, read through the manufacturer's installation instructions, and then see how many things they did that don't comply with the way the manufacturer says you have to do it, or whether they comply with how the code says you have to do it. And that's the easy part. And for me anyway, maybe that's why I do fairly well with what I do, because I pay attention to those details. When I was a carpenter, I was the same way. I want to get 100 boards up in a week, and if there aren't screws every 7 inches before the guy who's going to tape them comes along, that's okay. You as a contractor, you're always battling. I have to do this in a certain amount of time and make money, or you're not going to be in business. But at the same time, when the homeowner, the person who's paying you, is in need of your attention, that's when things can go wrong. That's the start of things going wrong.
Yeah. No, so I like what you just said in regards to, and what a lot of people don't know and understand is that every manufacturer pretty much has a manual of how to install their product. And not all manufacturers and manuals are created equal, and not all of them have the same direction. And I remember specifically when we were doing our general construction work back in the day, tile installers were some of the hardest trades to work with, because their excuse or their reasoning was, my dad was a tile installer for 30 years, I've been installing for 20 years. And my response to them was, I don't care who your family is, I don't care what you did on another job. If you want to work on my job, this is how we do it. If not, I will find somebody who will install the tile the way that I want it installed. And that comes into the spot setting, and the mud setting versus, leveling out the floor, leveling out the walls. If the walls aren't level, stop what you're doing, tell me, we'll fix it, and we'll have you come back. Now, do you waste time? Do you have to, remobilize? Yes. But at the end of the day, I don't want a homeowner taking a shower and tile, and especially with the 24 by 48s or larger porcelain tiles, you can kill somebody with that, or a child or a dog, So yeah, it's interesting you being on my side of the street trying to enforce some of those things. And because the way the industry is, I can't survive off of one job a month. You know, we have to run a couple jobs. So, you know, how do I train a team of people who have that same attention to detail? And, you know, as far as the roofing goes, you know, the renailing the deck, affidavit, that is a big one that gets by me, and I'm sure that's probably one of your go-tos. You know, whenever you have to do an inspection on a roof claim. And for those that don't know, at least in South Florida, there's no inspection for renailing a roof deck. So when we tear off the roof, the old nails are not to code, so we have to install a longer, thicker nail that actually has
the Ring-Shank.
Oh my God, Ring-Shank. Thank you, I appreciate it. Ring-Shank, so it actually has a texture, so it bites in the plywood and is harder to pull out of the plywood. There's no inspection for that. A contractor signs a paper saying that they did it. You know, what better, bigger loophole? I mean, not even a loophole. It's not a loophole, but you know, that's probably one of the most important things, or which we're considering is how is the plywood attached to the actual roof structure, your trusses or your rafters. And if you're not addressing that, once again, your whole roofing system get torn off. And the only thing I have to do is sign a paper saying that I did it. You know, that leaves a lot of room for you know,
they're taking a big chance, because it doesn't take a storm. An inspector can go in the attic with a metal detector, or just look at the shiners that shouldn't have been left there, but they leave the evidence behind. That you can count the nails and how long they are with a metal detector. And right. If you ever go in the attic and you see 12 black lines on a roof truss, that was somebody there counting the length of the nails and how many nails are in there to see if the roof was actually re-nailed. You get a credit for having it done, whether the nails are 6-inch on center or 12-inch on center can cost you money. And if the inspector finds that only nails are only in the trusses at 12-inch on center, and you see that, you're going to go back to your roofer and say, hey, what's going on? Not that many people would really figure that out, but it certainly is something that can be figured out.
No, absolutely. And as you mentioned, relatively easy. And also just looking in the attic and seeing, because we're not going to hit 1,000 or 100% into the truss. You're going to have some nail misses, and you can see how long those nails that missed, how long they are. They came out through the side of one of the trusses or the rafter, because, you know, the nail gun wasn't completely straight. But yeah, I mean, it's a dirty game. And, you know, the question is, how do you explain that to homeowners to where they actually understand that, you know, hey, we take that very seriously. We make sure this is done. Yeah. It makes it tough to like communicate, and for them to understand what I'm trying to communicate. I think it's more like based off of trust at the end of the day. But unfortunately, a lot of contractors will tear off a roof, sign a paper, not re-nail the deck, keep working, finish the job, and move on to the next job. So that was something I wanted to mention. What are some other, in regards to the most common places where contractors will cut corners? Where do you typically go?
One place a roofer can get in a lot of trouble is whether they do it intentionally or not, but they don't put enough overlap from one tile to the next, so that with the nail down or mechanical fasten, you need 3-inch overlap, which will hold, the top tile will hold the tile underneath it down, theoretically, or 2-inch overlap with the adhesives. And if you go up and you look on the roof and you see the exposed nail holes in the tile, you know that those tiles don't have the right overlap. You can also find out by the length of one tile that it's a 16-inch tile, for example, and you have 15 inches of tile exposed everywhere. It makes it easy to conclude that, and there's no real good way to fix that. You have to tear off sections to fix that.
Yeah.